Hey everyone, Works here. So I wanted to do a video on why I'm excited for the next World of Warcraft expansion, Dragonflight, releasing just after American Thanksgiving on November 28th of 2022. For now, we'll see if that gets changed. If you've been watching and following my World of Warcraft stuff, you obviously saw I did a 38-minute rant on why Guardian Druid needs some significant help, and I didn't want to give the impression that I thought that the expansion was going to be bad as a result. That video is basically a matter of one of my favorite specs in the game has not really gotten the attention that I feel like it deserves, and that's me kind of creating another way to try and get feedback back to the developers that they really need to do something to communicate with Guardian Druids that that spec needs help overall. So what I wanted to do in this video is kind of talk about all the reasons that I'm excited for Dragonflight, because I'm very excited for Dragonflight. I think it's going to be a fantastic expansion. A lot of specs have gotten some much needed attention, and for me, this is an opportunity to continue to flex my muscles as both a player, as a mythic pluser, as a raider, as a content creator. There's obviously I've not been putting out a ton of videos coming out through beta. Did some like Death Knight stuff. I still haven't done druid stuff, but I'm kind of working on it. I've already kind of done the Guardian video, but I just wanted to kind of talk about, just generally speaking, why I'm excited for Dragonflight. So before we get into it, of course, like, share, subscribe, guys. I know I say this a lot. I know you're tired and hate hearing it at this point, but it really does help. Lots of studies and my analytics have shown that if I say that you should like, share, subscribe, you're more likely to do it. I know I hate that sort of pressure in a way. I don't like it, but I'm trying to grow as a creator, and so I kind of have to do things that I'm not too thrilled about doing. The only way I'm really going to stop it is if you guys just keep spreading the word, and all of a sudden my subscriber count gets destroyed in terms of growth. So for now, I have to say it, so I apologize. Like, share, subscribe. Anyways, let's talk about many different reasons why I'm interested in Dragonflight. And I want to first start off with this is not in any particular order, the new UI. So I've got it right here. I'm in game on my, for now, Horde side, kind of testing Druid. All of my friends made level 70 pre-mades on Horde side, so cross faction is currently not working on beta, so I have no choice but to made a High Mountain Tauren Druid instead of my normal Kultirian Druid. But the new UI, I actually think, is in a really nice place in terms of functionality. There's a lot of little things that I'd like to see added to it, but I'm willing to be patient and allow them to iterate it over time, because overall the kind of overall growth that the UI has taken is quite good. As you can see up here, I've got a few add-ons installed already. One of them's not working, but we go from there. But I really like, this is the kind of default modern layout. I added the two other bars. It normally just comes default 2 bars. Of course, it has the Horde Griffins on the side. You do have the option of going through. Editing the UI is so much more simple now. You can see I just hit both of those, no problems. You can adjust the frame, cast bar. There's raid frames, party frames. You can snap to the grid now, so it's kind of fits neatly and perfectly into all the squares. You can snap to the middle, whatever the case may be. Like, it gives you a lot more options in terms of what you're looking for out of the UI. Little things like resizing the sides of the bars, number of icons, number of rows, the padding, all of that stuff is there. Here's the objective track that you can move. You can mess around with the mini map, mess around with your chat frame. Not a lot of options here, and there's still a lot of options being added over to this UI over time. Like, they just made it so that you can resize these, as well as resize the focus frame and the target of target frame, which should be target and focus right there. So you should be able to go ahead and continue to work on, you can make that the bigger frame if you want, or go to the smaller frame. Adding a lot of good things to it. Of course, some of these still need to be a little bit worked on in terms of just cleaning up the textures and stuff like that, but that's stuff that I'm willing to deal with. You have things like your loot window. Like, I like to put my loot window right there. You can move your buffs and debuffs. This little option allows you to hide non-combat buffs. You have your HUD tooltip that you can put, so when you hover over something, where it's anchored, which I really personally enjoy. Are there things that still need to be worked on? Yes, I'd like to be able to move the mini bar The experience bar while you're leveling is going to be below these frames. I'd like to be able to move it up to the very top because that's just where I prefer it, or above my chat because that's where it's at now. You have your debuff frame, you know, your possession bar when you're possessed by a creature, or when you possess a creature, extra abilities for when you need them, the encounter bar for when you need it, arena frames are out there, of course, the vehicle exit button is there, you know, so you're talking head for that frame. Like, I'll just turn all this on real quick. And you can see, like, you can get into, like, doing a lot of stuff. Let's just do fast 5, because I think that's what it is. And so you can see, like, it just adds really nice functionality. The party buff and raid frame, the party frames and raid frames are very good right now. I'm sure there's some filtering that needs to be done to it so that you can hide things like your Mark of the Wild buff, or your Fort buff, or your Intellect buff, Battle Shout, whatever the case may be, and you focus more on things like for healers, for example, you'd want to focus on, like, as a Resto Druid, you're healing over time spells, or any, like, you know, Beacon, or Riptide, Earth Shield, that type of stuff that you want to be able to track that you necessarily maybe can't do through weak auras, or you don't want to do through weak auras. I'd like to see that type of functionality added in. I'd like to be able to change the bar from green to my class color. I think that would be really cool. But beyond that, this UI is very, very functional, and I'm definitely going to be giving it the old college try as we get into the leveling through Dragonflight, as well as even starting into, like, maybe the early Mythic Zero World Tour that I'll be doing, things like that. They've updated a lot of the frames as well, so you can see, like, this frame pretty much looks the same. The achievement frame looks pretty much the same. Then you have little things like this Dragon Isle summary is back in, where you have the different groups that you earn your renown with. Your Dragonwriting skill is on there. The Dragonwriting tree is on there. Like, all of this just allows for really cool overall, just a much better looking UI. If you wanted to cut away most of your add-ons, I think you can do that. There are going to be certain add-ons, TSM, Trade Skill Master. I think weak auras are still going to be very important. I'm still using Plater as well, because I don't like the way that the Blizzard nameplates are. You can see I've got just the default Plater profile right here that allows that to kind of flourish and function. But beyond that, you know, really I just have details, of course, which you're gonna need. This is not the final setup that I'm gonna use. I just use it for the purposes of just kind of testing mainly. But there are going to be some other QOL add-ons that you might want to keep, but if you're looking to kind of strip away something like LVUI or Shadowed Unit frames or something like that, I think you're going to be able to do that if you've been looking to get away from them, but you just don't like the way that the kind of the current default Blizzard frames look. These frames overall are much improved, and I think you're going to be able to drop them, and this excites me because I've been looking to kind of sleek back the UI and basically only go into combat necessary add-ons and weak auras. The other thing that I want to talk about, as I'm just going to switch characters real quick, go over to my leveling character, is Dragonwriting. I'm sure you saw a lot of the hype early on about Dragonwriting from the creators that got into it in the alpha, as well as into the beta. Now that I'm in beta, I've been able to try it out quite a bit. Obviously, it's a big part of the leveling experience. There's a whole dungeon built around Dragonwriting, and it doesn't disappoint. It feels really good, and I really enjoy it. I love having fun with it. Love trying to figure out the strategy of, you know, how to take advantage of it. Get my next vigor. Wow. It's passive, that's passive, that's passive. Yeah, so we'll put it. Oh, I need 3 for that, 3 for that. For that. So basically you have to go around and find these glyphs. They're all in different zones and stuff, but like, just real quick, let me kind of come over here, just quickly show off Dragonwriting. Now you have the abilities while you're here that show up on your first bar by default. Now the thing is, this Skyward Ascent can basically be taken off because you can just double jump and it'll take you to doing that. But just the momentum physics, like you go up, you can see that I'm losing speed, and I'm just kind of floating. You can surge forward. Like, you can see it senses a glyph nearby somewhere, but you can see like the momentum physics. We go up a little bit higher. We come up here real quick, up to the top of this, and then we just immediately jump back in, and like, it just offers a lot of these really cool things. And these glyphs are around, like you can't see it behind my camera, but you know, it says that the Drake does it. And then like, you have your vigor points. but the vigor points do recover while you're going at like really high speeds or while you're just sitting on the ground. Like I'm over here in Rust Pine Den because that's where I'm at in my leveling process, and as you sit on the ground, you can see it starts to recharge. You know, and then if I get off the dragon mount and then jump back on, you can see it's still recharging at that rate. So overall, like the dragon riding aspect, it's really fun, it's really interesting. You're going to be able to get very powerful as you're going through finding these glyphs. You could either do them during the leveling process, you can do them just as you find them, or you can do what I'm probably going to do, is that unless I just happen to get them as I go, I'm probably just going to make it one of my early in-game activities beyond working on professions. It's just flying back through the zones and finding all the glyphs that I can so that I can max out the dragon riding, so that I can get something like, you know, every 15 seconds vigor regeneration, get 10 seconds off, which will make that faster. Thrill of the Skies generating vigor every 5 seconds, 6 vigor overall. Like just being able to go through, you can dismount players if you're in like a PvP situation. You know, get the increased vigor. Like it's very basic. Like you get dragon riding initiative and compassion. Onara's Gust allows you to like evade different things throughout. There's races that are going to be done. Blizzard very quickly jumped onto the fact that people wanted to do races, and so that's there. So overall, like I really just enjoy the fact that dragon riding is in this game. I want them to carry it over and make it an evergreen system that becomes a thing with even more and more mounts. Use like the old Griffin mounts, let them have the dragon riding qualities, and really they just need to make dragon riding the new flying, because it's just so much fun and it feels so satisfying to do. And as you get better and better, and as you continue to grow your dragon and grow the dragon riding aspects, you're just gonna be able to do cooler and cooler things, travel far distances. Like right now I'm in the Azure span, but let me go to the, let's go to the Waking Shores. Like you're gonna be able to get off this boat to Stormwind, find a high enough place, or even get high enough through Take to the Skies at like Wingrest Embassy, and you're gonna be able to fly straight over to like Ruby Life Pools, where, you know, this dungeon is at. Or you're gonna be able to get down here to this quest. You come all the way over here to Niltharius' legend, the Obsidian Dragonbane Keep, and the Obsidian Throne and stuff like that. Like you're gonna be able to just fly all at once, but it keeps you engaged because you're gonna have to fly around different things and fly up and over, and it makes just the process of flying better than just flying straight up and AFKing and then just sitting there watching your screen, not touching your keyboard at all while you just ignore the zone itself. This is going to bring me to the third thing. This is one of the most beautiful expansion I think they've done yet. All of these areas are just so cool. They offer a lot of really cool and unique aspects, like you can see right here in Azure Plains. I'm here in the south, but if I go north, it gets into the icy area where the Tuskar are at. The Onaran Plains, as you can see, have some really cool stuff. I haven't even fully explored it yet, but like obviously a lot of green you'd expect in the plains. Waking Shores has a combination of like this kind of multi-rock area here and here, where like the initial like waking kind of hurt the land area. Valdrazus, this area I haven't gotten into yet, it's the last one. There's the first raid, but even Valdrakken itself is just a beautiful city. Everything about this expansion, like it reminds me a lot of Mists of Pandaria and how much I love the look and feel of Mists of Pandaria and the art of Mists of Pandaria. Dragonflight is giving me a lot of those vibes in terms of its artwork. It is just gorgeous. It is beautiful. The skylines look amazing. The skyboxes look amazing. Everything down to even these little freaking goats, the ducks, you know, really nice detail and art on everything going on here that just makes you just really enjoy things here. Let me go north a little bit. You can kind of see. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna barely get there. So you can see, like, just here, there's the Northern Frostlands. And, like, just the detail in the artwork looks really nice. It's really nice resolution scale on it. Just adds, like, this really fun variety and texture to it. The art team in World of Warcraft always kills it. But this expansion, they've gone above and beyond. And it makes me really excited to just be in the Dragon Isles and explore everything. And to me, this is even the best looking zone. The area around in the Waking Shores, in and around this area here, is so beautiful. The architecture is great. The color schemes are great. The variety of everything is just really, really nice overall. All right, so I'm going to exit beta because I want to go back in and look at some of the other things that I'm excited about with this. Obviously, we've talked about Dragonwriting. The other thing is that you're going to get different dragons. So you get the classic Drake, the Wilder Drake, the Proto Drake, and the Velocity Drake. Each one you get from like a different zone. That as you complete their stories, you get them. And they all have like a variety of customization options. So, you know, I talked about collecting the glyphs at the end game. Collecting appearances is going to be its own form of endgame that is completely optional, but I think a lot of players are going to engage in because they want to make the dragon unique to their taste and their style. And I think that's really neat and a fun way to give optional endgame content that you don't necessarily like pure like power players that are just all they care about is min-maxing their character. They don't really care about anything else. They use the Dragonwriting as a convenient A to B post, but don't really care about getting all the appearances. They're just kind of happy with what they have and they just go. Like those players are going to have lots of things that they can do, but for players that just want to be able to go out and collect something, just do something chill on their downtime, you're waiting, you know, you're on 30 minutes before your raid and you're just looking for something to do, you just want to go out and dragon ride and go find the glyphs, go try to find quests that collect appearances and stuff like that, you're going to have a very rich, deep optional system. And I think that makes it something that players are going to be drawn to, because those that really want to do it are going to do it, and those that don't want to do it don't feel forced to have to do it, which I think is cool. All right. The talent calculators. I think this is probably the biggest change that World of Warcraft has seen since they changed the talents back in MISTS of Pandaria. Now I know I've been railing on things like the Druid class tree, as well as the Guardian Druid tree. I obviously did the video on it, but I think this is just the one exception. Almost every other class that I've played, they've had really good, interesting builds. For example, Feral, it's really nice build diversity inside of its tree. You know, you look at non-monks, like I really enjoy the Windwalker tree. I think there's some really cool stuff in the Windwalker tree that really just makes the spec very interesting, and you can have varied builds to play. I played some Unholy DK, for example, which has a really cool set of playstyles with the Gargoyle build or the Wound build. So like these talent trees, I think, have really opened up classes in ways that it hasn't been opened up since MISTS of Pandaria, really. Maybe Legion. But, you know, for the most part, I'm excited to see how these talent trees continue to evolve, how they continue to grow, continue to get iterated on as we get into the 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 patches. And overall, I think it's just going to allow World of Warcraft to have a level of experimentation and build diversity that they haven't had in a long time, because talent builds have been very, very static for quite a long time. The advent of tier sets, these first set of tier sets are kind of very bland and boring, and that's done on purpose to allow us to kind of get used to the new system. But as they continue to iterate on the trees and on the tier sets themselves, it's going to make for some really possible interesting builds to kind of grow and develop off of. It's going to allow for diverse playstyles throughout an expansion, whereas, like, for example, Beast Mastery Hunter has basically played the same since, like, ever. You know, ever since Barb Shot and like this current playstyle was introduced, which I think was either back in MOP or WoD. You know, it plays pretty much the same, but now with tier sets and these trees, you have some really interesting setups that could focus on things like multi-shot and your AoE setup, or you can forgo any AoE at all to really maximize and push the single target. So it adds really and allows for this build diversity that I think is really interesting. Are they perfect? No. Obviously, Guardian Druid is a huge red flag right now for Blizzard that I've been making kind requests on Twitter to get some communication on what they see with the Guardian Druid class. Like, they've literally said nothing about it since it was first implemented, and I think that's very, very upsetting and frustrating for one of my favorite specs in the game. But a lot of these trees are in really nice places. So, like, for example, you look at like the Demonology tree, a lot of blocks are pretty happy with it. Shaman, for the most part, are okay with their trees. Warriors are pretty satisfied with their trees. Arms and Prot in particular, Fury, they want some work on it. Like a lot of these trees are really nice. They're not perfect. I don't think they're going to be, but almost all of them are like, if you released it now, I think most people are going to be happy. Druids, Guardian Druids in particular, and Shadow Priests, I know, or Priests in general, I know, are like the two exceptions to that, because they've kind of fallen into an unfortunate circumstance this beta cycle where the initial trees were released and then the developer that released those trees left, and they didn't have anyone to be able to come in and replace right away. And so they just basically got sat for like 3 months almost, you know, where actually I think it was closer to 2 months, where they just got nothing. no iteration, no changes, no information whatsoever being put out about the specs, because all the devs that could have taken on the druid and the priest set have been working on their own classes like mage, warlock, priest, paladin, or mage, warlock, rogue, paladin, shaman, evoker, demon hunter, etc. So unfortunately, I think these two classes, guardian druid and shadow priest, I think are the biggest ones, but those two classes specs have really suffered because of that situation. But you know, the guardian tree in particular, like it can do stuff, and I think if I were to play it in like a raid situation where I'm potentially gonna be doing mythic raid, like that's gonna be there. But I think overall the tree definitely does need the help, and I hope that we're getting it before the release date in about 6 weeks. Vault of the Incarnates looks quite fun. I didn't do any testing. I'm not doing any testing right now as I record this, but I think it's a really interesting raid from what I've seen. Allows for some really interesting potential strategies to come forward as we see both the Race to World First guilds and regular guilds go out there and challenge themselves in the new raid. The new loot system, I think, is actually pretty interesting. I know a lot of people are a little upset with the changes to Mythic Plus loot in particular, but frankly, I just don't have the energy to have that argument with Blizzard right now, because my energy is going into this class tree right here. This one in particular, I'm also trying to advocate for Shadow Priest to continue to get some iteration and look into, talk to someone about it, try to figure out what their problems are and what changes could be made. There's lots of feedback out there from both Guardians and Shadow Priest out there that I think Blizzard needs to really take a hard look at. I know they talked about trying to just bug fix and tune and do like medium levels of iteration, but I think they need to make the exception for these two specs because both of them desperately need some help. But I think almost every other class, for the most part, is pretty much can be launched now, and it would be perfectly acceptable. May not be the best in a lot of cases. There's going to continue to be growth and iteration that Blizzard puts in as they start working on the 0.1 patches and stuff like that. But for the most part, the talent trees, good to go. Mythic Plus. Mythic Plus is my favorite aspect of the game. I'm not the biggest fan of the old dungeons that they're bringing back, particularly Quarter Stars, because I'm just kind of burnt out on Quarter Stars. It's been in the Great Push, it was in Legion Time Walking, it was in MDI. Like, we've seen a ton of Quarter Stars, and I think this was a missed opportunity to go back in and find another interesting Legion dungeon, or even dip back in and get a BFA dungeon, something like a freehold that I think would be extremely welcome for people to be going into and running again. You know, a lot of people have questions about the Halls of Valor, but Shadow Moon Burial Grounds, as well as the Temple of the Jade Serpent, both are going to be interesting to go ahead and route into. And of course, you're getting 4 brand new dungeons in the first season of Mythic Plus with the Dragonflight dungeons themselves. So they're trying something different with dungeon rotation, trying to keep the dungeons feeling fresh, feeling interesting, and giving us a new challenge every season. I respect that. And the affix, yet to be tested, but the initial impression is that it's probably going to be fine, but we need to kind of understand and see how it works, and like how big is the circle that potentially stuns people if you overlap with someone, similar to Quaking, etc. But I'm excited for Mythic Plus. I'm excited for Raid. I'm looking forward to potentially getting into Mythic raiding this expansion. Try my hand at that. I don't expect to get CE right away, but hopefully the group that I'm operating with is, you know, kind of committed to dabbling into Mythic, and then kind of, if we start to find ourselves some success, getting motivated to try and push to get cutting edge ultimately on these characters. I'm excited to play Druid. I know I've been harboring about Guardian in particular, but Feral is really fun to play. Boomkin just took some nerfs, some heavy nerfs as of this recording, which I know has bummed out a lot of Boomkins, but for me, I'm still excited to try it out because I haven't played Boomkin in any sort of serious manner since Wrath of the Lich King, when I wrote the guide for the Boomkin. And Restoration Druid is my favorite healer in WoW, so I'm excited to play Druid. I'm still hopeful that Guardian gets some changes. I'm starting to get frustrated and lose a little bit of hope that Guardian's going to see some changes, but I'm trying to be optimistic about it. I'm excited to try a different ult. I'm looking at Monks potentially, but Death Knight may be back into the mix for me in terms of a second character. I'm excited to kind of see how the community that I work with, the Iconic community, continues to grow and develop into Dragonflight. I'm not part of the leadership team of Iconic, but I'm very much like trying to be excited for the things that we've got going on. We've got a potential mythic rating team as well as heroic rating team. I've got a goal to get all 20s or all 2K on all 4 druid specs. I want to get all 20s done on as many specs as I can. I want to push as high as I can get, maybe the 25s if possible towards the end of the first season, and just continue to grow and be better as a Mythic Pluser, be better as a raider, be better as a community member within my community, and try to do more videos for you guys as well. I know you're interested in this stuff, at least I hope you're interested in the stuff that I'm putting out, but I want to go from there. So that's kind of it for me, guys. I appreciate you listening to my about 25.5-minute rant on why I'm actually still looking forward to Dragonflight, even though things aren't 100% perfect for, you know, one of my favorite specs in the game. But overall, like, that's not going to stop me from playing. There's a chance I don't even have to play that much Guardian, because I know there's some other folks that are looking to potentially raid tank, which means I get to play Feral and balance and raid, which I'm perfectly fine with. And if there's enough people that are interested in tanking in Dragonflight, maybe I just become a DPS player for Mythic Plus, in which case I get to play Feral, which is my favorite DPS spec in the game. So it's a win-win for me. Either way, I get to play either my favorite tank, or one of my favorite tanks, or my favorite damage dealer, or my favorite healer. Like, I'm winning. So I think I'll do a video on going through the thought process of choosing a main. And I think that'll be kind of the next Warcraft video. There's a ton of reaction videos coming out this month because it's a busy month in October. There's a bunch of artists are releasing Halloween-themed music this month. So that's going to be the majority of the videos, I think, on this channel this month. But once Dragonflight kicks up, I will be streaming my entire leveling progress. Once I get into dungeons, I will be streaming all of the dungeon project with Mythic Zero. We'll be streaming Raid, of course, as well. And I'm looking to be a little bit more consistent with the streaming schedule as we move into Dragonflight moving forward. So that's it for this video, guys. Appreciate you very much for sticking around and hanging out with me for these last 26 minutes or so. So until the next video, I hope you're all staying safe. I hope you're all enjoying yourselves. You keep on gaming, and I'll see you all in the next video.